What do you guys think about just vegans in general?
I think their message is to treat animals more fairly. They don't really have a say. They're not protesting themselves, so I think they need someone to protest. I think that's what vegans are doing. Personally, I think I'll give it a try to go vegan. I don't know how hard or easy it'll be, but it's worth a shot, you know?
It seems like you've maybe thought about this before. Have you kind of reflected on it, or maybe...
Yeah, it's not the first time I've heard of it, so I've pondered over it a few times.
Right, so was it kind of like an ethical consideration that you
Ethical,
started to have?
Definitely. Yeah.
Right, so what would that entail, do you think? What kind of got you thinking about the ethics?
What got me thinking about it? Well, the conditions that the animals are in actually right now. I mean, animals have been slaughtered for as long as I know, but I mean, after watching these videos, their living conditions aren't justified by me, and I guess a lot of other vegans. I think that's why we're here protesting and having conversations with people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's really refreshing, honestly. I've heard there's been a lot of positive feedback tonight thus far. I know it's excellent to hear, for sure. Yeah, and I think, ultimately when people are walking around and going about their daily lives, they're kind of living in the mundane. They're not really thinking about these deeper core issues, right? Like
hidden.
It's hidden. Oh, it's
they don't advertise this. They don't show it. So
it's not something that would pop up in a normal conversation unless someone else brought it up.
Right.
Like the main giveaway is you can go to a fast food restaurant and buy a burger for $1, and people think, why is meat cheaper than blueberries or fruit, and that doesn't make sense. And it's because of what they do here. They can sell it for much cheaper and in bulk. So basically, by torturing animals, they're getting meat to that cheap of level.
Right. So there's they're sort of filling. Sorry?
They're driven by finance.
They're driven by finance.
Yeah,
right.
They just have greed.
Absolutely. You look around at all the billboards, and it's saying, double, triple McCheesy burger. You have the onion rings in it and the Dorito chips, and there all these. We're commodifying. We're adding things into these industries that make them more seductive. More people want to participate because it's so delicious. It gives them that self-pleasure, but then they forget that a sentient being was involved in the process of this torturous process, towards death. And even if it wasn't, a torturous process, maybe they had an excellent life leading up to it, right? Kind of like the free range, right? The free range approach. Yeah. Even this is a cop-out, right? Because I would even say, in a sense, it's more unethical, because you're saying, I mean, it's arguable, but I would say that it's almost manipulative, because you're saying that you can reduce the suffering to a point where killing is justified. So, sure, you're giving it a good life, but then at the end of its good life, you are taking its life.
And who are you to...
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think the thing that I think about is, who are you to say when the animal is to die, when someone else is to eat it, I don't think that's right. And I think we should change that, definitely.
Absolutely. So the animal has self-determination. It wants to preserve itself and live a life of wholeness and well-being, right? So regardless of its cognitive abilities, right? Because we often say that we try to assign human characteristics to animals, but the reality is you don't even need to get into all that. You can just say, well, an animal has a desire to live. It avoids the knife when you're moving it, towards it, or it doesn't want to get flipped over. It's shaking in fear as it's going through the process of going to being slaughtered. It's a really horrible reality, and I can understand why so many vegans are neurotic. I can understand why it's so hard for a lot of these activists to, you know, to not be emotional, right? Because it is an emotional matter.
It is. I agree.
Personally, like the main thing people are focusing on really, like when it comes to this, is like for like the sake of the animals, and I feel like people can't really relate to that, because like by just saying like the animals are suffering, like people aren't going to drop eating meat and dairy. People, like, their health is affected by eating this meat. It's more than, like, this meat has like steroids, it has probiotics, like they put antibiotics in them, like in their food, just so they can not get sick. Like it's all like industrialized, like based on the corporate scale. So like it's also health based, and like the energy wasted on making, like, on this entire production is insane, and it's like contributing to so many problems, so environmental, health wise, and the animals. So I think the main problem here is like the way they're doing it. But like as for like free range and like grass-fed beef, like where like they're killed at the end, like for that I don't think that's as big as a problem as that. And like my reasoning for it is like even like in nature, like animals die because like predators prey on them for food. So I don't think that's mainly the problem, giving them a good life and killing them. But like in this situation, they're born into
Does
the
that
life.
look like nature?
No, not at all. Like they're born in, like they don't even get to fulfill their natural purpose. They're born and killed right away. The step forward mainly for this is to like slowly move away from doing this and change the base of operations, and then maybe over time people will change to vegan.
I mean that's a little bit of a cop out though, and the reason why I say that is because it is up to the consumer to purchase products that impact the industry, right? Because you could say, well, my impact is so so small, it's not gonna have an ultimate impact, but footage is going to plant a seed in someone's brain that could potentially make them go vegan. You could say, well, I as an individual can't make total impact, but the reality is, hopefully get them to see how their actions have consequences. Basic supply and demand. When you have a particular product that you want to supply, there needs to be a demand for it. So vegan meat is pretty fire, eh? It's literally just move your hand in the grocery store from the almond milk or from the dairy milk to the almond milk, or the soy milk, hemp milk, mixed milks, right? So it's choosing the Daiya cheese instead of the dairy cheese, right? So
I agree with that. I think then
it's so simple.
Then like the two things people could do is make people aware of it, and also add alternatives. Like there needs to be alternatives to just eating this meat. Like if someone says go vegan, like they need to add more. Like people need to be aware of them. Like some people, like they're like, oh yeah, what else am I gonna eat? Like there needs to be it needs to be more advertised, more put out there, so people kind of have like an idea where to go to, so they can consciously make that decision. Right? Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So thank you for the conversation. I really appreciate you guys, coming out and having a talk. Yeah. Nima and Pasha, you guys are excellent. Thank you for coming out.
The middle class is dwindling, the population is doubling. We are not living in Rome, we've been living in a fiefdom. So we're living the full of genomes. Remember, it's a hate-free zone, cause money doesn't care who burns it. The world is a killer virus. I'm not a happy plant, so it give me diseases. So the ones with stock of knowledge can someday flourish and punish all those who stood between us. Quit your job, start a business and read more. It was once soulless millions who I touch. You can kill them on their own land. They left the door open, cause the best illusions are house real. Satellite shadows, businessmen, inmates, free thinkers and cattle. Birds on power lines, flying heads on vehicles, pop autopods, dead presidents, live poets and dust mites. Workers on birth control, men on wanted posters, the women who love them, dinosaurs, inbreds and alien holograms. Two pilots and other airborne bacteria, children born with STDs and the sons of rich tyrants.
If a life can have a theme song, then I believe every worthwhile one has. Mine is a religion, an obsession, or a mania, or all of these, expressed in one word: individualism.